Going live again. I wish I had a title uh for this. I don't know.
Aftermath.
Well, yeah, aftermath. And I guess if we all uh had our own way, we would maybe have different we would have different titles. I'm thinking, you know, finding home from darkness into the light. I don't know. But here we are yet again, episode 2. And this is actually the day before Earlene is going to leave and go back to Arizona. So I thought it would be really important to kind of hop back on. And I was going to hop on this morning anyway. And it just so happened that as I was getting prepared, she was up and ready. So it must have been meant for us to be here and share this time together. Uh, just, and basically, like Earlene said, it really is the aftermath of um, DNA ancestry results. And again, I think this is the part, I said this before, this is the part that people don't really prepare for. Like, what do you do in the aftermath? Um, a lot of people don't go into it necessarily trying to find out about specific relatives or
Play,
anything.
play,
Okay, so
play,
pause.
play.
What do you need, Jay?
Mm,
I want. What do you want?
Wow, what's the?
Okay, I'll turn on Wawa Whoopsie. Hold on a moment.
Okay, so while she's attending to Jay and getting Wow Wow Bubsy on, um, I'll just take this time to say, um, wow, this has truly been an experience. Um, I jokingly do call this my Antoine Fisher moment because I did get the feast and everything, and I got the opportunity to meet uh, my birth mother, and I now I understand that in my need to differentiate between the different mother figures that I've had, I I called her my birth mother. And I'm now learning that she took offense to that because this entire time that we've been learning about each other, I've been calling her mommy. And I was calling her mommy because um, I don't really remember having a mommy period. By the time by the time mommy number 3 came about, all of her children were already grown and things of that nature. And I was coming out of losing my grandmother, my father's mother, as well as losing uh, mama number 1, which was, well, I take that back now. Don't let me say mama number 1. Mommy number 1 was, of course, my birth mother. And number 2 was my adoptive mother. And number 3 was my mother in love. Not stepmother, but mother in love, because she poured into me what she had. And it was different to pour into me what she had because she gave her all to her children while they were being reared. And here I was, this girl child, this child woman that she, had to had to come in and teach about slips and the right kind of underwear and stockings and crossing your legs and things of that nature. So I later learned that she took offense with that uh, because my mother is really, really, really on titles and words.
So, so this is the other thing that, like, one of the things that's really a challenge is that we're trying to blend or work on several relationships at the same time, and that can be very difficult. And so I may, as I said in the first live, I may have one way of looking at things or have my own ideas and thoughts about our mother. And I have worked really hard not to impose my feelings and thoughts on Erlene, because she has a right to um, get to know her mother for herself and to have her own relationship and to go through her own processes. And we have to kind of, it's a delicate dance of us doing this together at the same time. Like she was really good and very eloquent in what she just said and stated, and not wanting to offend her. Where I am, and this is totally different. Not getting ready to be an apologist for our mother, or um, I'm not going to. My goal in this live today is not even really to respond to anything that she posted on Facebook, because whatever, girl, bye. Basically, um, is what I have to say in the most respectful way. But again, we're in two different places. We have and Erlene has a right to have her own um, experience, and I would never take that away or attempt to take that away from her. Um, and I actually told our mother when she was here um, last weekend. I said to her, I said, I said, you are incredibly lucky, even blessed, because, regardless of what I might feel individually, I mean, for you to be able to have this opportunity to even meet a lost daughter, at this age, at this time, and to have the opportunity. So even if you feel like I don't like you and I don't want you in my life, you have another opportunity with a whole nother human being to start from scratch and start anew. And I'm not a hater. I don't hate on that. I think that's amazing. And I said that to her specifically. So, um, for whatever it's worth. And I'll only say one other thing, because other than that, I'm not going to address anything for reasons that I'll get into later in this live. I'm not going to go point for point, like word for word, but I will say that one of the reasons why um, I said that Erlene and I actually discussed this beforehand, but it would be better for her to fly in here and for me to take her to Pensacola, is because, as I said in the last live, I was in the process of setting boundaries with our mother anyway. I actually wasn't even speaking to her uh, prior to this news with Erlene. I wasn't even speaking with her. Um, Again, setting boundaries, because what in the world is going on? Okay, setting boundaries because um, I don't know, some of you may remember a few months ago, I posted this monologue that it took me a long time to get out as I'm on my own healing journey and, writing and creating things. And when I published the monologue, my mother was again very offended and had a lot to say out of that whole 8 minutes. That uh, 8 minutes of poetry that I published, the only thing she got out of it is how bad it made her look. And I really just didn't have time for that. So I pretty much just shut down. And just like I couldn't deal with that. So because of this new information and I decided to try to do the best I could to maybe open a door, but again, with boundaries. And I'll talk about that more later. Um, when I really get into where I want to go with this live, I decided that would be the best way for Erlene to come down, and then I could take her,
Plus, it
and then
was cheaper.
a proper introduction, and then we'll just take it from there. And I was open to whatever, and so again, I'm not gonna go, point for point, but the thing is, I really felt it was in poor taste for her to mention what she paid or what it cost, because by the same token, you found out about this in April. So if it was really that urgent and that important and that sincere, you could have took your money and flew to Phoenix to see her. But I'm not going there. I'm not getting into all of that. Again, I'm not here to really explain or go back and forth, because that's really what she wants. And I need to stay focused on why I'm here and why I'm doing this and why I feel like it's important, and to really expand on some of the things that we talked about in the first session. But, sort of the first session was us just, trying to keep things light, um, a little bit humorous, but I really want to dig deeper today, and that's what I intend to do. So before I go there, is there anything that you wanted to say? Hey, born again.
You know
Okay.
what?
Hey, Chris.
Shanice, you did
Hey,
a
Chris.
really, really good job of, I'm gonna tell you what happened
Hey,
to me.
Chris.
And now you just gotta find out on your own. And I'm disappointed, but I've been disappointed a lot in my life. You just pick up the ball and keep on rolling. So,
I don't know who keep trying to interrupt my live. Okay,
so
go
let's
ahead.
let's just roll with it.
Okay.
I've been I roll with the punches. Sometimes they hurt. Most of the time they don't. So let's just roll with the punches.
Okay.
Any
Go ahead.
questions? I'm willing to answer any questions if there should be any questions to come about.
Okay. I'll try to look. I will try to look um, as I can. It's weird on Restream because I haven't quite figured that out yet. I guess there's a chat over here that I can kind of look at. But right now, I don't see anything. I don't see any questions. I can see people there. So I'm just going to go ahead and start. So, one of the things, like we said, we're talking about DNA Ancestry.com and these kits, which are, I don't know. I know the intent is probably good, but it's really just kind of, it can be reckless because there's nobody really to help you sort through the information that you find out and try to put it all together and make it make sense for your life. So we're just doing this in real time, and sharing the process. One of the things that we talked about the last time is, or one of the things that Earlene and I guess, have discussed, not just online, but just discussing, is just what our lives were like. We knew each other, we went to school with each other, but I was really curious as to, what it was like for her growing up, and thinking about uh, what it was like for me growing up, because as I said before, I like really, really struggled. I really, really um had a hard time. And as a result, it's really, a lot of experiences in my life have been really haphazard. I think one of the things, like I said, we connected on before, was like both having experienced like hardship in love relationships, experiencing, just, I wrote down here, men, money, marriage, drugs, and education. How much of what we've experienced or gone through comes from just us and, crazy decisions we make as adults, but how much of it have we carried with us because it's generational, where we have like generational curses and issues. I'm curious about that. I want to know about that. People, I know I'm kind of skipping all over, but I'll come back. People, um, I have often experienced in my life a feeling of unworthiness. And I think Earlene talks about experiencing that too. And it's like, but we grew up, yes, in the same community. But she had two parents, a lot of times at home, like she said, a nice house and these things. I didn't have my grandparents had that. So we're going to talk about that too and establish that. But I didn't have that. For much of my life, there were periods and times, a few years here and there that maybe I had a room, but for most of my life, I never even had a room to call my own. I think I said that in the monologue. Like, um, but I felt unworthy. People would make me feel like you don't deserve to be great. I worked so hard to graduate at the top of my class, and I was third in my class, but I could always feel like people feeling like I didn't deserve to be there. You don't deserve to be here. You don't, I wasn't necessarily, the weirdest thing is I wasn't necessarily from the other side of the tracks when I was in East St. Louis, because, uh, my grandparents, they started off like in Parkside on Glenwood when I was really, really young. But by the time I was 8, they had headed for the hills. You know, but even when I got to college, and I don't even know why, I like chose to go to this place where I knew, I mean, Hampton University is a great school, but I don't have an elite like legacy like that. So it's hard. And I was often made to feel like um, I didn't deserve to be there. I think one of the things primarily that ended my first marriage was my inability to live with the fact that I didn't think my in-laws didn't think I was good enough. But I kind of get it because people worked hard to establish whatever family legacies and to get wherever they got, and they don't want anything coming along like ruining or messing that up. Because the thing is, maybe there are things that we get honest, that are really hereditary that people don't want mixed up in their uh gene pool or their line. I don't know. I can't even really hate on that. Again, I'm just here to explore it, to talk about it. So that was one of the things that we talked about. You know, sexual assault. Is that just a coincidence that it's something that we both experience at really um, young ages? I think it's something worth exploring.
Y'all are finding out a lot that I've worked hard to not even expound upon. I just wrapped it up, rolled it up, and put it inside. And I guess I'm kind of frustrated now because I'm feeling a little raw. And I don't necessarily like feeling that rawness. But hey, what don't kill you makes you stronger. So
So I'll
here we go.
yeah, I'll tell this little story. Um there was a time during high school that I tried to be involved in almost everything I could. Like I was involved in a lot of extracurricular activities because it gave me something to do, to not feel idle, to not have to really stand in the pain that I knew I was dealing with on a daily for a variety of different reasons. But one of my activities was cheerleading. Um, and I love doing it. And we would often have practice, and this will help give people like some perspective. We had a lot of practices after school. I tend to always be there and do things, but um, there were times that I would be at cheerleading practice after school, and it would be time for people to be picked up. Everybody would get picked up, and it would get down to me being like the last person to be picked up, and um, and then I would just be there. It would just be me by myself waiting. And back in that time, we didn't have cell phones, like we do now. Um, Not really where I could call and see. It could be a day that my mother was supposed to pick me up. And I would just be waiting for her to come, and waiting and waiting and waiting. And she never came, like for really, really long periods of time. And there were times that I would even, let's say, if somebody pulled down, and we would be like on that side, I guess, area. And if
Where
I
the pay
saw,
telephone was.
yeah, when I saw a car, like somebody about to pull up and see I was there by myself, I would often go hide in the bushes so people wouldn't see me and wouldn't know that I was there by
Disappointed
myself.
again.
Yeah, waiting. I didn't want her to get in trouble. Um, and I so ultimately, eventually, later on, I got a car. And, me getting a car at that time, some people look at it differently. They thought, okay, well, she's one of the first, I don't know, underclassmen to get a car. And I got a Yugo, which I was very grateful for. At the time, my grandfather asked me what I wanted, and I just didn't want to be any more of a problem. I wanted the cheapest, nicest thing that I could get. But that wasn't for me to flex or for me to be on any type of level. It was so things like that wouldn't continue to happen. And there was one time actually that I got a ride home with someone's parent, and that parent who drove me home chose to violate me at that time. And so I did not want to be put in that situation again. But I often found myself really apologizing for my mother and or for whatever was going on at the time. And so now at 52, I've finally gotten to the point where I just can't do that anymore. I just can't do it anymore. So I know there are those who'll be like, oh, but Shanice, but that's your mother. But those are people who, I who really don't get it, can't get it because they can't fathom, because their idea or perception of what motherhood is or what parenting is just doesn't allow them to conceive anything that you're saying. There's so many times in my youth that I was crying out, but in ways, people just don't want to see it. People are like, oh, it'll be okay, or, just pray about it, or, it's just important to honor your mother. And I just look at it now as just bullshit, a way for people to just kind of smooth things over. But I'm here to let you know it's not just okay. You need to really listen to kids when they're talking to you, or trying to tell you something, or when you see different things and behaviors. We can't just sweep it under the rug. Um, and people like me aren't to be thrown away or cast aside. At the time, we're real people with real life experiences. I think, again, when I talk about how conservative, like, East St. Louis is, well, at least in the community that we were a part of, it wasn't. Nowadays things are different, but it wasn't common for people to be, uh
Mm-mm,
single family homes, and
mm-mm.
just to, I'm the product of a teenage mom, and I really felt like I was a bastard child. People made, I felt out of place. I felt unworthy from the time that I can remember, and I'm really doing my best to come up out of that. And if it offends some people or whatever, okay, I can't really do anything about it, but I'm trying to come up out. And um and I'm going to continue on that journey, even with whatever new information and whatever things are going on. So, did you want to say something early before I go on where I was going?
We were reared during a time of what happens in this house stays in this house. And for all appearances, we did what we did on the outside. And people are like, really? I would have never thought, because everything was done on the outside for appearances' sake. Um, and I honestly believe that as my weight continues to move in the wrong direction, that I've began to pile it back on, because it doesn't hurt as much when you're fat. You can't feel it. You
Mm, interesting.
can't feel it. Um, wow, it's all I can say because I still haven't processed everything. I did kind of like have to shut down for a moment yesterday because one of the things that's really hard for me is when I feel as though people don't see how far I've come, and I'm labeled. I've always been labeled, um, but I strive to be beyond labels. I really do. Um, Most of the time, I can. My humor allows me to be able to get through and to repair and shake shit off. And this one's a little harder to shake off. It's a little bit harder. So this is going to be something for me to work on. But then at the same time, do I really want to work on it? Well, yeah, I in a way I do. But at the same time, you know, whatever that means to whatever people, and I'm throwing my hands up, and I because I don't know where to go from here because when you're open or you're thinking that you're open and then somebody comes back and say, "Oh, well, your hair is blonde." No, actually it's platinum. I don't even have the I don't even have it in me to do the correcting now of people that may see me a certain way. Um, it, I, you think whatever you want to, basically. I'm going to continue to strive to be me, and it took 53 years for me to get comfortable with me, and I can't believe that in the course of 5 days, my entire cage was rattled, and I don't like that. I really don't. And I'm sorry that I keep frowning. I keep looking at my face and seeing that frown and trying to wipe that frown line out because y'all that y'all that know me, and I use that term loosely because there are a lot of you that see me and that have been in different situations with me as far as work, school, yeah. But there are very few people who really know me. And those of you that know me know that I am the one to say, okay, you know what, we ain't do that right. Let's try it again. So do I even want to try it again? Oh
Okay,
no,
now
I
I can
might. Then
see.
again, I may not. We'll see. We'll see.
So, one of the things I really wanted to talk about again, and we talked about nature versus nurture, or at least I brought it up before, like how much is, you know, about how we're being nurtured or not, and how much is nature. And in my life, one of my biggest goals has been, to break generational curses. As hard as my life has been, um, in me still being here and having kids of my own, I want to do whatever I can to make their lives better authentically. Not by just having more things and having a home, but like really authentically them being in a better place. And so that's just like one of my biggest goals, calling things out, breaking these generational curses. And I've been working at it, but some things have been incredibly hard. So I feel like I've done well, I guess, with education because I made it a priority for myself to get an education, to maybe that's a legacy. I know my grandmother had a college degree, and I think eventually my mom got one, but just to go as far as I could with education. But even with that, it's been challenging because um, and so I'm saying I need to say like authentic education, like valuing, like because I don't, I've come to learn through being a parent that also college isn't everything. I don't want to stuff it down my kid's throat like it's the only way and like it's yeah, I don't want to hold up to them that they have to meet like this bar that way. It's important for them to be successful, and for me to encourage. So maybe that's the generational curse, like for me to be involved in their lives and to encourage success and growth. Um, that's important. Let's say drugs, breaking that generational curse, because it's been a problem in my family, and it's something I don't know. Again, and I try not to talk about her that much because this really isn't about her, but she's involved
Somehow or
about my
another,
mother.
this
But
is going to be
but
about
like
her.
drugs was an issue, and it's important for people to know there are functioning drug addicts out here and have been. So while you're seeing the fun smiley, oh, Shanice's mom's fun, people go through battles with drugs, and it's hurtful to their families, and I've done my best not to carry that on. I don't, definitely through high school and sometime beyond, I drank much more than I shouldn't even been drinking, period. But I did a lot more. I mean, I was so incredibly reckless, but thank God, I found my way. And I've never touched a drug. I've never had a reason to have a taste for cocaine or heroin, and it's just never. The, things were so bad for me in my life that I just never wanted to have anything to do with those things, and I'm trying to pass that on, and so that's not a generational curse that continues. I'm really careful about even the prescription drugs that I have, just because I know it's just in the blood. Men, relationships, and hey, it's a struggle. I told myself, a lot growing up, I didn't want to be like my mother, married 5 times, and none of them being my father. But here I am on marriage number 3, and it's like, man, it's a struggle. I mean, just uh, some people, are able to just immediately have those storybook like types. It's just, man, it's not my
You know what?
experience.
I thought this was going to be storybook ending.
Oh yeah, I didn't have that, but I know you did.
I thought this was going to repair a lot. I thought this
You
was
told me
going
that too. You were
to,
like, Shanice, I got it. We can, and I just, yeah, you really did.
man, and she dashed me, boy. When I tell you I got dashed, oh my god, and it hurts
Hold on one
because
second. Thanks, Tracy. I see your comment. Much love to you. Um, I was okay. We got to get back to you, Earlene. But I have to tell Tracy that I was telling you that when we were talking about Chris James Green, I said he's a tally. And she was just so shocked. I said, yeah, they're all part of the same family. It's all in the smile, though. Anyway, but yeah, thanks. Go ahead.
um it that dashed me. Thank you, Tamasa. Thank you, Toya. Thank you, Carol. Hi, Boo Carol. Um, I thought this was gonna be just excellent. I really did. Um, and it's kind of messed up that it didn't turn out that way. But I mean, I'm okay. It may take more than one trip. It may take a couple trips. It may involve me deciding to go back to Pensacola and visit her yet again.
Look at these two. Go
Yeah, our
ahead.
background is moving, y'all, because we've got two co-stars that are trying to get on camera. It is Rice and Malibu. These two look. That's why the thing been jumping around, y'all. Mm. Anyway, um, and animals can pick up on it because since I've been here in Atlanta, when I tell you Rice has been on my head and just trying to, hey, look at me, pick me up, So and y'all might have just seen it. I just shook that off. I started out with tears,
Yeah.
but I shook that off because this isn't a time for tears. My Aunt Henrietta used to tell me, every time I see you, you crying. And that was those tears at that time was because I really couldn't articulate how I was feeling because I didn't know.
And it's okay for you not to have it figured out
I'm
so
still
quick
trying.
because
I'm still trying.
yeah, this is it's a lot, and so it's a
I,
lot
I ain't
for
never been
you.
labeled as no doggone hood rat
Well,
because I've seen hood rats, and because I'm blunt, and because I refuse to to sometimes, y'all call it, Erlene doesn't have a filter, so I took my filter off for a moment, and I allowed myself to be seen and to be heard. And now I know why people look at life through rose-colored glasses. I know what that means now. You don't want to see what's right there in front of you. But my God, it was right there in front of me. And the thing that scares me the most is the fact that nature versus nurture. I don't know what it is, what my mother felt or thought at 16 in a home for unwed mothers about to give birth to a child that was created in love, because I got that much from it. I realized that I was created in love, as much love as you could have in the back of a Buick. I found that out later too, but I was created in love because my mommy actually loved my pops, and to have that taken away from you, I can understand. And Cola, thank you for telling me to meet her at that 16-year-old child that is now slapped with 53. And maybe that's what's kept my mother, my mommy, looking as young as she does, is because she literally is still that 16-year-old. And this is the fastest 16-year-old that is out there, because she knows how to work her honey pot, and because that's what's helped her get through. I started out, that way because it was a whole lot easier for me to give a man my body than for me to give him my heart or my mind. We can do this. And deuces when we're done. And that was easy for me. But then the more my girlfriends and my friends and people were getting married and having children, and that ain't never happened for me. I There was one guy that he and I talked, and he was like, well, what did you ever think about your wedding? I've never thought of myself ever as a wedding day, or as a bride, because I never felt myself worthy of being a bride. That's just something I didn't think about. I didn't have dreams of, I'm going to have 2.5 children and I'm going to live. My dream was at 45 to be driving down the highway with water on both sides, in a convertible with white hair and a scarf and big beautiful Greta Garbo shades on as I'm traveling, because I've become an author and my books are selling and I'm moving across the country. That was the dream that I had. And because I just didn't fathom it to be any other way. And Lord knows that I am a product of older parents. And I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, but my father didn't have much of an education. So according to him, it was absolutely wonderful that I graduated from high school. That's why he held that diploma in his hand when we took those pictures, because he felt as though a major accomplishment had been done because I graduated from high school, and that he was able to. Now all of you that know me from Assumption and St. Patrick's know that Earl Hampton was a bus driving parent. I did not find out until years later that the reason, well, I thought my daddy was there at school because he was checking up on me, or, he wanted to make sure I was at school, even though he didn't have to worry about those things. I thought that's what his presence was. later found out that the presence that he had for driving those buses and for doing those things was not because he was interfering in my high school life, it was because he's working off my tuition. I would have never known until much, much later. And I had a new affinity for my first hero, which was my father. And it is so hard when we find out that our heroes really don't fly.
Hmm. That's
That's deep.
that's pretty deep.
That's deep.
Um,
Every now and then I get those. I don't have that Hampton education. You know what? I just thought about something,
mhm,
Sissy. Now that I'm trying to get past that. Sissy, you were educated at Hampton.
mhm.
I was educated at Hampton because my last name is Hampton.
Oh, yeah, that's something.
So we've got the same education, just different ways.
I like that. That's something. Definitely something really interesting. And like I said, just our whole experiences. I literally, one of the things, even like during reunion times, like one of the things that's so difficult is a lot of memories that people hold near and dear when it comes to high school. I just honestly don't have because, when we were talking to Nicola the other day, or was it yesterday? Um,
Day before yesterday.
Day before yesterday, she said something so profound, and
Co-star number
well,
three, y'all.
I
Mrs.
wrote it.
Rice.
I wrote it down because it was something about, she said, like, how old were you when the lights went off, or talking about how old you were when the lights went off, and I was so young, like when the lights went out, and I've literally been traveling through the dark and so only certain things kind of stick out into the light. And it was just a rough time. I was experiencing so much anxiety and pain throughout high school, while I was having, I guess, sort of these also wonderful experiences. And, there are a couple of times I dipped out. Well, that was before high school. I dipped out at the end of seventh grade, beginning of eighth grade, to go stay with my mother in Carbondale for a minute, and then dipped back in. But I was always really paranoid about whether or not I was going to be able to stay in school at Assumption, because when if my grandparents got tired of paying or making arrangements for that, and my grandfather made it. He lived all the way up until December of my senior year. And we had a nice long talk, and he told me he was sorry that he was going to have to leave, but he was tired, and just couldn't go on any longer. But
Y'all know,
those.
y'all know, being in a Catholic school, if your tuition payment was a little late, people came in. Can you send Shanice down to the
Yeah,
office?
like that
Can you
stuff
send
is
Earlene down to the
stressful.
office?
It didn't matter how good of a parent, I mean, good of a student you were. And I worked so hard to try to be great, or, nobody, I don't talk about those times when I was saying, if I was called in the hall and somebody say, your mother is here, she needs to see you. Of course, I'm like, she needs, your mother's here, she needs to talk to you. Nobody knows that I'm getting cussed out or asked for money, and stuff at that time. It was just a really rough, and vulnerable time. And I think, one thing that it's part of the reason why I'm so passionate about kids now, or like I have been since I've been involved in education, and really care about my students and their lives and their hopes and their dreams, and just letting them know that it's okay to be different, that you can make it. I wasn't really able to achieve the dreams that I really wanted for myself, because it's like I had to go through this fight. Do I want to be stable? Because stability was something that was important, even
Right.
though my dreams were important. So sort of like trying to create stability won out in the short term, trying to create like some type of foundation for myself. Um, yeah, that just became, I guess, more important and attractive over time. And then I kind of lost, started having kids and kind of lost track of what I really wanted to do. But I wanted to get back to talking about this thing about, we were talking about generational curses. So education, drugs, men, as we started talking about, and Erlene was so eloquently, I mean, she described that just perfectly. Like I said, here I am in marriage number three. I got four kids. Actually, our mother had four kids, so there's Earlene, me, and then my brothers, Chauncey and John, which most people who went to school with me didn't even know they existed. That's a story for another day.
You know what?
And then
Let me
and
stop
then
you for
Grammy had four
let me
kids.
stop you for a minute, Shanice. You know what what just came to my mind is that um in oh my God, it mhm. you have to you have to be really 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 ready for changes in your life, and people that look at you from the outside don't always understand what changes you go through to become who you are,
Hmm.
and really try to not repeat the sins of the future or the sins
Of
of
the
the
past.
past.
Hmm.
My mommy Anita, when we were getting ready for the photo shoot, she had brought all of these pearls, and they were all of different sizes, different shapes, and things. And she gave a set to Shanice, and she gave a set to myself. And she told me how to be able to tell that they are real pearls or not. And I thank you, Anita, for giving me those pearls. But there are also pearls of wisdom that I wish that my mother would have been able to pass on to me. You know, the things like uh when you first buy a cast iron skillet, put the oil in it and let it sit on the stove and get as hot as it can be so that you can temper it. I didn't learn anything about tempering until I got to beauty school. And because you try so hard to live up to what your parents want you. When I first told my mother, Arnita, the Anita in the interim, that I wanted to go to beauty school, she was like, "How you gonna do that? You know, you should really think about doing something else." And I hadn't thought about anything else because beauty was what I had wanted to do. So I put aside what, because she and I were both traveling to Indianapolis to get our Alaska curls done. At that time, those were $65 a wop. And whenever we went, it was always people there, you know. But I just liked that the fingernails and the red polish and all of those things. I
Hmm.
really enjoyed that. In an effort to please my mother and father, I chose to go to school, and I only went to Sanford Brown because I wanted to get out. I wanted to do it quick. But it's funny how years later I found myself right back in that pool again of the cosmetology world because it's never left. You know, a lot of people told me that my blonde hair didn't work. Well, it might not work for mainstream society, but I'm special. You know, don't you see how I rock it? Don't you see? And my father was like the only blonde haired black people he saw were albinos. So are you albino? And that was his way of making me feel bad for the choice that I had because it wasn't the choice that they wanted for me. But they didn't understand that this was my choice. They didn't know how to nurture my choice. My family didn't know how to nurture my choice. It was learn how to get along in the business world, and in order to do that, you can't wear your fingernails, you can't have your hair, you have to dress a certain way, you have to be a certain way. And I'm thankful that was instilled in me. But I use those tools that I was taught about to help me navigate this journey that I have now, which is at 53. I'm just not beginning to step out on my faith and do my thing. And that's not negative about anybody that has poured into me or given into me. It's my time now to live for me. It really is. And if that includes my mommy, I'm good. But like Antoine Fisher said, if I never see her again, I'm good.
Which gets me to um, what I want to say about mental health. So I don't know if it's going to, well, I'm not going to share my screen, but I'm going to read something because this might help somebody. So, um, I feel like I've come up, well, okay, just talking about mental health. Like I said, and breaking generational curses, and mental health is a doozy. That's one that we really struggle with, and me and Erling talked about it before. Just whether it's bipolar, whether it's depression and anxiety, but narcissism. We're going to talk about the spirit of narcissism because I brought it up when I made my post, and I really do consider myself an adult child of a narcissistic parent. And I just want to call it as I see it. So, for those of you who don't really know what it means, let me read a little bit for you. It says generally, narcissistic parents are possessively close to their young children. Um, Hold on. Their children are seen as an extension of themselves and become a source of self esteem for the parent. Look at how perfect my children are. Didn't I do a good job? The children become a means to gain attention from others. And I could expand on some things there, but I'm not going to at this time. The children learn to fit into the molds that their parents create for them, and this can lead to anxiety for the child who constantly pushes aside their own personality in order to please the parent. The child of a narcissistic parent must adhere to the parent's agenda in order for their life to be stable. Asserting their own feelings or thoughts can lead to problems with the parent that might include anger, tears, or punishment. Through this, the child learns that their feelings and thoughts are unimportant, invalid, and inconsequential, and will often stifle their own feelings in order to keep the peace at home. Narcissists aren't always cruel. This is really important. They can very often be kind, but this kindness almost always comes with conditions. The child will often come to understand that their parent's kindness leads them to feeling beholden to the parent, whether it is overt or covert. The sentiment, if I do this for you, you owe me, that came out yesterday in somebody's Facebook post. If I do this for you, you owe me, always comes with acts of kindness. Kindness and love are conditional. A narcissist's behavior can be difficult to handle at the best of times. So, for a child, it can feel extremely unpredictable and unsettling. Young children can't just get up and leave their family. Ooh, I wish people understood this. Young children can't just get up and leave their family. So they nurture hope by sacrificing their own self esteem and blaming themselves. The child internalizes the belief that they are the problem. If I was better at this or that, then my parent would love me more. Like if I got straight A's and if I did this and if I got this award and degree, my parent would love me more. The parent's own belief that they are the perfect parent only compounds this belief, as they believe that any resistance or negativity that they experience from the child is the child's fault. The difficulty of growing up with a narcissistic parent is that the child often doesn't realize that there is anything wrong. But I was different. I didn't know what to call it at the time, but I knew that something was wrong. And I really literally carried those feelings of shame and blame, or even, like yesterday, it was. it was difficult for me to push back the things. Well, will this hurt her feelings, and maybe she, but I'm not doing that. I'm breaking that generational curse. I'm not giving in to that anymore. I have sacrificed so much of my adulthood, and just I've spent too much time worrying about what somebody else, including my mother, thinks about whatever I'm doing or not doing. It has really stifled me. And for me, time is out for that. Like, I'm sorry you're hurting. I'm sorry you're hurting and not healed and that and broken, but it's not my responsibility to fix it
Not only
or be
that,
there.
not only that, not only is it not our responsibility to fix it, but don't pull me into or onto that same hot poker
Okay, I'm sorry.
that's sticking you. You can tell me that it's hot and I'll believe it. You ain't got to pull me on that, and you don't have to bring me down to understand what it is that you're feeling. And in my, I'm stuttering because there's so many different things that want to come through. Uh, um, it you know what, I'm gonna sum it up and go from here. I am so glad that in spite of, I have the best families and support system around me. That's God still, because this is difficult. It is. It's hard, man, and it makes you wonder. And when when the time that I did spend with my mommy, just getting to know her in her own space, a lot of the things that she told me about myself or about my younger time or about her younger time didn't come out until that drunk tongue took effect. And when that drunk tongue took effect, oh baby, that's when it rolled. Oh, did you know that you were bipolar? Thanks for telling me. Did you know you had this? Did you know you had that? Did you know you have this? And this is where your arthritis comes from. Those are questions that I've always wanted to know and have answered. But at this price to pay to know those answers, baby, I'm thankful. I'm thankful you're still alive. I'm thankful you're still kicking it. But guess what? I'll talk to you when I talk to you.
I don't know. Yeah, it might change. So that brings me on to parenting. So just, I know maybe there were struggles in the way that our mother was parented. I don't get into that because I wasn't there,
Yeah.
and I don't really know, and our experiences aren't similar because you know whatever may have been going on in the household, she did. I think it was some. It. She grew up in a stable household with both parents. Uh, uh, I want to say finances weren't an issue. There was a period in time in her life where they had housekeepers and maids and lived overseas, or whatever. And I'm not saying that's the be all and end all. Um, I just want to say that wasn't my experience. And no one can assume just because my grandparents had that I had it. It
Sorry.
wasn't. Um, it wasn't necessarily that kind of party. That's a little bit more. That's a little bit more complicated. Um, and I don't. Not that it was my grandmother's intent, but I felt like I was a burden, just because I did. No matter what I would do to try not to be that burden. So anyway, I grew up just sensitive to a lot of different issues. And so then in becoming a parent, it was really scary. And I'm trying to just continue to break some generational curses there and continue to face whatever lessons I need to face with my kids. I'm sure, there are some things that I do or decisions I've made clearly that they aren't necessarily happy with. things that they wish I was better at,
Mm.
and things they wish I didn't struggle with. But my whole thing is I try my best to be really open about it, and make sure my love for them is unconditional, and do as much as I can to support them in their journey, understanding that it's not mine. Their story is not my story. They're entitled to have their own lives, their own stories, their own struggles. And I'm just here to support them through it, even when it's not like a decision that I like or like that's the most popular. I'm challenged to just embrace it and help them to be the best people that they can be, so they can be better than me, so they can be even better than me. I'm not trying to hold them to whatever. I don't have it all figured out. I don't have all the answers. How dare I act like I do? And I can even learn things from them. So my goal is to go through this whole process woke, you know, seeing what is and dealing with it, but it's hard. It's hard for any of us that are parents. There is no manual for this stuff. But then I'm at a deficit. Like I can't even. I There are times when I literally have absolutely nothing to pull from. Absolutely nothing to pull from. And at the same time, I'm not. I'm willing to accept that. Um, so again, it's not. This is not a blame game of pointing fingers. It's just what is. It's just what is. And I'm only responsible for my healing, and then being responsible uh uh for my offspring. So I'm not. Erlene was saying earlier that, and I get that, man. I could see how she could be really disappointed. I'm so beyond that. Like I don't even hence the Ice Princess. I don't even know what feelings I have anymore. I come to expect whatever. And the thing is, you'll tell on yourself. You'll tell on yourself. I don't have to say really anything. And I again, in the past, I have worked really hard not to. I've worked really hard to say, well, I don't want to, and to shy away from. I've worked really hard. Um, Out of all my siblings, not to really call names or say anything. Like, I've really tried really hard, but at the end of the day, I have to live my truth and be who I am, and still work on my healing. I'm not willing to be sidetracked, and I'm going to be sharing more and more as I'm in the process of writing a book and doing some things. I'm here for a reason, and I've got to stay focused on that. I've got to stay focused on that. But these things, hey, there's a lot. There's a lot to it. Go
Let me
ahead.
share something with y'all. And this is something that I tripped off of today. I have a tweezer set that has pinpoint, needlepoint, and then it's got slanted point, and then it's got just a straight edge. And today, before we got on camera, I was sitting trying to dig out ingrown hairs so that I could pull them. And you know what came to my mind is that, Earlene, you are performing surgery on yourself. You're trying to you're trying to dig out you know all of this stuff, and you really don't know what you're doing because you didn't opened up new wounds in your effort of trying to dig out what you think is ingrown. So I say that because I can't dig out the parts of me that are like Anita. Can't do it. Cannot do it. And that may be frightening for her because she saw a lot of her in me. But I will say this, um the times that I acted in the way in which she acted, She said that she got an opportunity to see her behavior, and she said it was embarrassing. So she was going to try to be better. Sometimes you have to show people how they act, as because they don't understand it when you tell them. I'm sorry I had to show my mother how she act, and I'm sorry that it fell on deaf ears. I'm thankful for all of those people that have nurtured me away from my nature.
Likewise, yeah, like now I have a small community of people who really help to hold me up and don't ask a lot of questions. And you know but the thing is, I just want people to realize these situations are real. Like everybody everybody doesn't have the same experience. Everybody doesn't have you know a wholesome childhood. And I mean, of course sometimes we see some really obvious like situations that are just like terrible, but a lot of times there's a lot of things going on right inside the lines of normalcy that would rock your world. Pay more attention and be more, I would say, understanding and loving. We're going through this. We're dealing with it.
Open up the lines of communication. Understand the ways in which your children, your family communicate, because there are many different ways to communicate. And one of the things that I found is that a lot of people are afraid of the word relationship, and relationship is just how we treat
Right.
one
I don't want
another.
to pick.
It's how we relate, whether it be a friendship, any kind of ship at all, is based
Okay,
upon
let's see. You're
relationship,
gonna have to get
how
that.
you relate.
Um, yeah. So I don't know. We're just documenting as we go through this. Today is another day. Yesterday, we actually had a good time. We had an outing where we visited the AU Center. And today is my friend Vicky's birthday celebration that we'll be going to later. And then I'm sure when Earlene goes back, there'll be even a lot more time to like process and think through things. But we're just at the beginning of this journey. And like I said, everything happens for a reason. These truths come to the light, I think, for us to deal with them. And it can be uncomfortable because things may contradict other stories that we've been told or forced to, but you know um but we just have to, or at least I have to face and confront it and do whatever my soul says I need to do to deal with it, right? So
That's a lot, y'all.
that's all I got
It's gonna
for
take me a
today.
minute to because she it's gonna take me a minute because I'm teeter tottering right now. It's gonna take me to get my balance. But when
What
I
made you teeter totter? What were you thinking?
what made me teeter totter? That tropical storm that we were in. I
Oh,
was holding on to that. I was that news reporter, the new news reporter that they send to Hurricane Valley, and they're standing there with the microphone and they're trying to talk, and cows are blowing by, and they're holding on, but they're still there to give you the story. I'm holding on, trying to still give you the story, and I'm being blown around. I'm still holding on. No, this has been Early Hampton with your weather report. We'll be back later to discover just how we're going to clean up after this tropical storm. So
Yeah.
news at 8.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank y'all. Thanks for being part of our support issues. Thanks for uh, taking the time to learn, because you may learn from ours. You may learn from us. And I guess I still keep saying that, even though Shanice said when we first did this one that she thought that Catholic Charities would make sure that adoptions took place. People were coming from North Dakota to pick up a child and take it back to
Something.
North Dakota. But I
Uh,
had all from what I have known, I have always thought that that we were all within the same circles. So I'm still
mm,
astounded by the fact that I actually went to school with my sister. I am still shocked that we walked the same halls together as friends, later to be found out that we're sisters. And it's all right there, and it's all right there. It's right there. It's there. Wow. How many other people saw it? You know, how many other people thought that they look alike? You know, um,
yeah.
I've always wanted to see who I looked like, and where I came from, and the birthing stories of, this is what all of those stories that my mommy would tell me as we were getting to know each other, just gave me warm and fuzzy. And I
Mm.
was looking for warm and fuzzy again. And I got here, and it's not warm and fuzzy. It
I.
is lint,
Oh man. Um.
not length, it's lint. Lint. That is bits of fabric on top of another section of fabric. It is lint. Lint roller is what you sometimes need when when I lived with Manuela, we always had a lint roller because there were cats in the home that shed. So we'd get in the truck and we'd roll everything off, you know.
Hmm.
But guess what? I can't roll this off because this is in my heart. And oh, I'm sorry, this is in my heart,
Hmm.
and it's harder to process. It
Yeah. I
is.
don't know.
It's harder
I
to
don't know how many
process.
people even knew there was so much going on. There was, and I don't even know how much anybody was paying attention. I do know, and I can't remember who it is right now. Please forgive me if they watch this. But I talked to one of my classmates who was like, yeah, who kind of has memories like of me in fifth, and I don't know why I don't remember sixth grade. Like I don't know why there's a hole for sixth grade. I don't even know. It's like it goes from fifth to seventh grade. I don't even know. Like I've like literally lost that whole year. But they're like, remembering seeing me disheveled sometimes and always looking like very serious, and her, people would pick up on things, but I don't know. I don't know. And so if that was a child, somebody else in my own class, like what were the adults thinking
Oh,
and doing
oh,
like during
oh.
that time?
Another thing too. Just because a young girl has breasts
Oh yeah, we talked about that on the last
and
one.
has developed
Hold on.
early on doesn't mean that there's a grown man somewhere in the picture that has caused this development to start in children. Everybody develops at different ways, and it's about hereditary things. And because no one had seen where I was from, or so I thought, or maybe still think, you didn't see other bodies like mine. And not seeing other bodies like mine might have driven people to think certain things. But
And
now,
people thought them things because they wanted to think them
because it
things.
was easier just to say, you know, it's always easy to blame the
Yeah, yeah,
child,
y'all don't get a
but
pass now. And be
but
glad that I'm beyond naming names.
yeah, you can't blame a child for something that they have no idea that they have. I didn't realize I was out there until I got the pinches and the taunts and the cat calls and all of these things. So maybe that's why I wear black too, because I can kind of shrink back in. I could try to help cover up and hide, and you know,
And I was told by somebody, who's like cool, like sort of a friend that, they were told that I wasn't the kind of girl that you have as a girlfriend, or that, that's
well,
that's just that kind of.
I've always said with my relationships that I've always been the girl to get some from, but not the girl that you give something to.
Mm, mm, yeah, man,
Real
those are
talk. You probably didn't expect it, but real talk.
look, that needs to be on our next on the after.
Y'all
That needs to
don't know
be
me.
on the after dark. That needs to be on the after dark edition, because we're gonna get more into. We'll get more into that. Remember, because I don't even want to say it in the middle of the day. I was getting ready to say when, that friends conversation we were gonna have.
I got you.
but
I
but
got you.
because it's the middle of the day, and some of my young people followers and stuff may get on here, and I'm not trying to mess them up and get them hearing things that you know but again, and people underestimate their kids too, but that's a whole nother story.
That's
They
true
just think
too.
there's so much they think
That's
that
true
kids
too.
don't know, or that kids aren't experienced. You better wake up and get out of, take off them rose colored glasses
Okay,
and
so
get
check this
real.
out. Check this out. Um, there was a lady who was very pivotal in me growing up, and to she encouraged me to continue telling stories because she gave me my first laughter at me being able to tell stories. And from that moment forward, I wanted to always be the one to tell that story to make somebody smile or to laugh. So,
And
uh,
you've done well. You have done extremely well with that. So I'm going to because the rest of the house is happening now. I don't know if
yep,
India's going to work or not. Jay is up and around and
yep.
bustling around. We have a party to prepare to go to, but maybe we will come back later if you feel like it. We'll see. We'll see what the day brings.
Whatever it's gonna bring, guess what? We gonna do it together.
All
We're
righty
gonna
then.
ride this out, and we gonna see what happens. Peace, y'all.
Bye. Okay, it'd be great if I knew how to end it. Oh, there we go.